So welcome, everybody. It's good to have you all here joining us tonight for the orientation session of Conchas y Café, the fall 2025 semester of this particular program. As I had mentioned earlier in the chat, we are uploading once again the orientation packet that we will be covering for tonight. For those of you joining us either on Instagram Live or on YouTube Live, unfortunately, I don't have a way to share the actual PDF file with you now live, but this recording will be posted to our website as well as our YouTube channel in a couple of days along with the packet. So you can always check that out on the DSTL Arts website, which we will be covering in a little bit here. Y para empezar, me quiero presentar. Mi nombre es Luis Antonio Pichardo. I am the founder and executive director of DSTL Arts. DSTL Arts, as it's actually pronounced, is a nonprofit arts mentorship organization that inspires, teaches, and hires emerging artists from underserved communities. And here on the screen, I hope you're able to see okay the handout that we're going to be covering for today. Y como les dije hace un momento, I will be code switching. I'll be going back and forth between English and Spanish, unless if we start running out of time, in which case I might just stick to one. Pero sin embargo, aquí tenemos la información en inglés y en español, so you are able to hopefully follow along. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat on whichever device you are on. Y aquí también quería presentar al personal de DSTL Arts. This is the whole team. I alone am not DSTL Arts. I am just the founder and executive director, as you can see here. Yo me reconozco yo mismo como un poeta, artista, diseñador gráfico y fotógrafo. I have been practicing the arts that you see here for many years, and I have been also working in the nonprofit space now for practically my entire adult life. I am also exactly one of the art Avengers. I am joined tonight by, as I said earlier, our master teaching artist and arts mentor, Abraham Jaramillo, who is also a photographer, artist, and poet. Abraham ha trabajado conmigo por básicamente desde el primer día de Conchas y Café. So Abraham has actually been a part of the Conchas y Café program since the very, very, very beginning in, I believe it was 2015. And I am also supported by Angie Castañeda, who is our program coordinator and also is a mentor in our Poet Artist Development Program. Angie served as an LA County Poetry Ambassador in 2015 to 2016 and is also a poet, photographer, and a wonderful person. Yeah, I agree with Abraham. My memories have gone black and white, maybe even sepia. And then I always like to remind people that we are also joined in the team by Naomi Valdivia. Naomi Valdivia is the managing editor of Artistic Zine, our zine that publishes exclusively the work of neurodivergent artists from across the US. Naomi is also a graphic designer and visual artist. And as you can see here on the entire handout, you have our contact information there, so you can email any one of us if you have any questions at any point. Y sí, estamos aquí para apoyar a todos ustedes. As a brief introduction to what DSTL Arts is, most people like to ask, what does the DSTL stand for in our name? Pues, fíjense, it is actually an acronym. It stands for Develop Skills and Transcend Limits Through the Arts. That's essentially what our vision of what DSTL Arts is kind of translates to. Our mission statement, which I said earlier, is simply to inspire, teach, and hire emerging artists from underserved communities. And we hope to do so not just by offering workshops and different types of classes that help people develop new skills, but it's also our purpose to give artists specifically from historically underrepresented communities access to programming that puts their skills at the center. We really want to teach people that they have a place in our community and they have the potential to be change makers. I if you have not yet, recommend that you follow our social media, either at DSTL Arts. Of course, give Artistic Zine a follow as well, and, support our fellow artists in that way. But I would recommend that you bookmark either our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@DSTLArts, and definitely bookmark distillarts.org/Conchas y Café zine. That's the website dedicated to this particular program, and that is the same website where I will be uploading our class handouts, as well as the videos, the recordings of the lessons that we will be teaching over the next 15 weeks. Y como acabo de mencionar, en nuestra página web, distillarts.org/Conchas y Café zine, ahí vamos cada semana que tenemos una lección, vamos a subir los videos, las videograbaciones de estas clases durante los próximos 15 semanas. Y también ahí se van a poder bajar los folletos que repasamos en cada lección. Así que recomiendo que anoten esta página web para que puedan regresar con frecuencia y estar actualizados siempre con la información del programa. Pero sobre todo quiero mencionar que estamos aquí para apoyarlos de varias maneras y sus capacidades como artistas, porque ustedes son esencial para el desarrollo de nuestra comunidad, no solo como artistas, pero también como gente que puede cambiar la comunidad por lo bien. So I started Distill Arts back in 2012, and really it was because I myself did not know how to turn the arts into a career. So I had to go on a journey that took me to a lot of different organizations and through a lot of kind of autodidactic methods of learning. And through that, I essentially came onto the realization that our community, specifically the Latinx community, BIPOC community, however you want to phrase it, is usually not supported as working artists. We're typically taught that we are going to always be starving artists, which is not true, right? The arts are not just for hobbyists. In fact, over 30% of all jobs that are related to the arts in California are here in LA County. And 1 out of every 5 jobs in LA County form part of the local creative economy. The actual dollar impact that has on Los Angeles is $28 billion a year. And for perspective, only 9% of people who identify as either Latinx or Black actually have jobs within that same creative economy. And in contrast, 59% of the creative economy's workforce is white. And funny enough, in LA County, 68% of the population is BIPOC. And more specifically, 48% is Latinx, but only 26% are white. Now that's a huge disparity. That's something that essentially all of us are trying to overcome. We want to be part of this economy. We know that. It's in our community. It's in our blood. This is not something that I think is done by accident, not necessarily. But it's also something that we can change. And that's what I mean by all of us being potential change makers. Es crucial para nuestra misión y visión como una organización apoyar, como digo, a todos ustedes para que sepan que las artes no son solo un pasatiempo, son algo que también puede ser una carrera artística. Y para que vean el impacto que tiene la carrera o la economía creativa de Los Ángeles, aquí tienen unos datos que yo, de mi punto de ver, son muy importantes que conozcamos y que también sepamos que es posible superar. En el estado de California, más del 30% de los trabajos basados en las artes, en los artes se encuentran aquí en el condado de Los Ángeles. Y 1 en cada 5 trabajos aquí en Los Ángeles forma parte de la economía creativa. Y ese impacto económico que tiene cada uno de esos trabajos en total llega a 28 billones con letra B. Y es un impacto grandísimo. Pero como ven aquí, nosotros, especialmente los latinos y afroamericanos, somos menos del 10% de la gente que trabaja en esta misma economía. Eso para mí es algo que, pues, es un poco de, como diría, para mí me ha deprimido. En el condado de Los Ángeles, 48% del pueblo es hispano y en total somos 68% gente de color. Pero como digo, somos menos del 10% de las personas que trabajan en los artes aquí en Los Ángeles. A cambio, el 59% de la fuerza laboral creativa ah, se identifican como angloamericanos, pero son solo el 26% del pueblo de Los Ángeles. Así que hay un contraste ahí muy severo que yo creo que podemos superar, como dije hace rato. Y por eso existimos. Existimos, como digo, para apoyar a ustedes como artistas, especialmente si se deciden a tomar este sendero hacia un trabajo en en los artes. Great question, Jeanette. Those statistics come from two different sources. It comes from the Otis College of Design, Art and Design Creative Economy report that they publish every year or every other year now. And it also comes from a report that was conducted last year by I believe it was Arts for LA, but I might be wrong, in partnership with the LA County Arts Department of Arts and Culture. So it comes from verifiable sources. But thank you for asking. For our kind of approach to teaching the arts and ultimately critique, we base most of our lessons on these particular things, on these four things that you see here, which begin with story and then metaphor. These two work together a lot, right? Story, everything tells a story, every piece of art, whether it's visual or literary art. And metaphor serves to just reinforce the story. We also, through this particular workshop, frequently discuss design and intent. This is mostly done through our critique sessions. Every few weeks, we actually provide you direct feedback on your writing and artwork that you create through this particular workshop series. In the end, we don't believe in the concepts of good art over bad art. To us, high art and low art don't really exist. All we really want is for your art to be effective, to live up to your intentions in the stories that you want to tell. So a lot of our critique will be focused mostly on that. Para nosotros no creemos en los conceptos del arte bueno sobre el arte malo o el arte clásico versus el arte bajo. Para nosotros el arte debe ser eficaz. Y las maneras en que llegamos a ese punto con su arte es con reconociendo que el cuento es el basis de todo, ¿verdad? Todo tipo de arte nos da un cuento para reconocer, para dar un tipo de valor en cada obra que se crea. Y la metáfora es lo que refuerza el cuento. Y eso es lo que vamos a típicamente explicar o repasar durante las lecciones. Cada cuantas semanas vamos a también darles anotaciones sobre su trabajo y en esos casos vamos a hablar sobre el diseño y la intención. Y pues de esa manera vamos a pues tratar de reforzar sus cuentos para que lleguen a ser arte eficaz. Our core programs, these are the programs that we offer for free to the community, include our Poet Artist Development Program, which is our flagship program. It's the very first program that DSTL Arts offered since 2013. And this program is all about ongoing mentorship and manuscript development. So this program is really focused on teaching individuals how to turn the arts into a career, not just by teaching them how to, reinforce their manuscripts and publishing a chapbook length manuscript at the end of a year, but also by providing professional development classes that are available to everyone. So the professional development seminars, they are offered on a monthly basis, and those are open to everyone. However, the Poet Artist Development Program is a application-based program. And for this current program year, due to certain cuts in our funding, we're not able to take new applications at this moment. However, we do anticipate being able to continue working with our current mentees. We are in the middle of publishing some new chapbooks, and hopefully in the new year, around January, we'll have a good idea of whether or not we're able to open the applications again, starting the beginning of 2026. Art Block Zine and the Art Block podcast are another part of our programs that really ends up being more about LA. This is our love letter to LA. Art Block Zine gathers and publishes work submitted by community members that's related to a specific theme. And we also offer a workshop series, typically in the spring, that helps support the creation of work that is theme-based. This program in particular is open only to LA County-based artists, and the podcast features interviews with local writers, poets, and artists. Abraham and I are the co-hosts of the podcast, and you can check it out either on YouTube, on Spotify, or on Apple Podcasts. As I mentioned earlier, we also have Artistic Zine, which specifically highlights the work created by the neurodivergent community across all of the US. So this one is also a theme-based zine. And this one is, again, exclusively open to neurodivergent artists residing in the US. And this is the one that you are here for tonight, Conchas y Café, which is a bilingual community writing workshop series that is offered both in the fall and the spring. And each series culminates with the publication of a new volume of Conchas y Café zine. This program is open to writers of all levels. And as you are already aware, I'm sure, it is also available to the public through our YouTube channel. And those of you that are actually registered here will get a little bit of that extra added attention when it comes to the structure of the program. Y para repasar brevemente los programas de DSTL Arts, tenemos el programa para el desarrollo de poetas artistas. Este es el programa original de DSTL Arts, y en este programa ofrecemos no solo la oportunidad de publicar libros pequeños o libros cortos, sino también por medio de este programa ofrecemos seminarios sobre cómo se hace el arte como una carrera creativa. Esos seminarios se dan típicamente cada mes y se ofrecen al público general. El programa en sí es para solo gente que somete una aplicación, y durante este periodo no podemos abrir las aplicaciones porque no tenemos los fondos para apoyar nuevos artistas en este momento, pero ojalá llegando el nuevo año, como en enero, vamos a saber si vamos a tener esa capacidad. Sin embargo, se va a seguir apoyando a los aplicantes o los estudiantes que actualmente están en el programa, y también vamos a terminar de publicar sus libros, que van a salir todos como por este mes. Art Block Zine y el podcast Art Block son nuestra carta de amor, como dice aquí, para Los Ángeles. Cada año se publica un nuevo libro o revista más bien, llamado Art Block, y típicamente reúne los trabajos que se someten a través de una convocatoria, y cada año es diferente el tema que se va explorando, y también es lo que influye las clases que damos cada semestre primaveral por medio de Art Block. Y el podcast es algo que junto con Abraham se ofrece también cada primavera. y tiene entrevistas, presenta entrevistas con artistas, poetas y autores locales. Artistic Zine es otra revista que publicamos cada año y esta revista específicamente celebra el trabajo que se reúne de artistas autistas, específicamente autistas que viven aquí en los Estados Unidos. Y cada año el tema cambia y actualmente estamos reuniendo los trabajos que se sometieron este año pasado y en como un mes es cuando se va a publicar el nuevo Artistic Zine. Y no les voy a explicar tanto sobre Conchas y Café, porque aquí es lo que se va a repasar en las páginas que siguen, pero sí les voy a decir que cada año se ofrece 2 veces al año. Son 2 semestres, uno en el otoño y uno en la primavera, y al fin del año es cuando se reúne el trabajo que se hace durante las clases y se usa para publicar el nuevo volumen de Conchas y Café. ¿Sí? So our goals and our commitment to you is to offer our 2 semesters of the 15-week-long Bilingual Creative Writing Workshop Series, Conchas y Café. And our commitment is also to publish free of charge for you a Conchas y Café zine that will likely come out either in June or July of next year. The release of each zine is typically celebrated through a virtual reading and performance video. For those of you that did participate in the most recent semesters of the Conchas y Café workshops, you have received an invitation for the upcoming virtual recording session, where you get to perform your work with your fellow contributors, and then that video will be compiled into a longer format video that will live on our YouTube channel, and little snippets of it will be used on our social media, where we'll be tagging you and celebrating all the work that you have created. And yeah, someone else can read your work if you're open to that, River. It's also our commitment to you through this program to offer you constructive criticism on the new work of poetry and writing that you create, or if you're inspired to even create visual art for this particular workshop series, you can. Every time that we offer a lesson, we will provide you with a writing prompt or some kind of creativity prompt. We call it homework, and it will all tie back to the larger theme that we're exploring. For this particular semester, we're exploring the theme of birds and galaxies. Pájaros y galaxias es el tema de este semestre actual. Y vamos a hablar sobre varias cosas que nos inspira, que son relacionados a ese concepto, el tema de pájaros y galaxias. So birds and galaxies might sound kind of sort of out there, but I promise you that over the next 15 weeks, we'll have different discussions about ultimately nature and cosmology. Our expectations of program participants really are outlined right here in a bit more detail than might even be necessary to say. But to just make sure that all bases are covered, we do expect you to actively participate in the creation, editing, and submission for critique of original creative works that are related to the theme and that you hope to potentially publish. You do not have to publish anything through our program. You do not have to submit it, but we do hope that you at least make the attempt to create work that could potentially be included in the new volume of Conchas y Café zine. That said, if you are hoping to workshop other pieces of writing that you have created in the past, you are more than welcome to submit those to us for critique. And if they fit with the theme, we'll invite you to submit them to the zine. But ultimately, we want it to be original work that you create, work that is not generated using artificial intelligence, and work that you have all the rights for. So that means that, no copying or citing other text from other published works, including other photographs and things like that. And if at all possible, we ask that you attend all the lessons and all the workshop sessions in a timely manner. We do recognize that there are moments where people, for unexpected reasons, may have to miss a session, and that's fine. If you do miss a session, especially the ones that are lessons that are recorded, we ask that you commit to watching the lesson recordings if you miss the session, so that way you can be caught up with the rest of the class. You know what's going on, and you'll have a good idea of, what we've been discussing over the course of the 15 weeks. Especially because sometimes we do build on previous lessons. So, we try to reinforce the skills as they come up. Also, during the workshopping sessions, the sessions that are not recorded, where you are going to be submitting work for review, we ask that you provide genuine constructive criticism on the work that your fellow program participants submit. You do not have to read it in advance. It's going to be kind of spur of the moment for you. But as much as possible, really help us in creating that environment that supports the, feedback and the polishing of works that are drafts as they are created. That's all part of encouraging and promoting a safe learning environment, especially one that is free of judgment, bias, and prejudice. I'll kind of explain what we mean by that in a moment, but ultimately, respect everyone's work, and your work will also be respected. We do work really hard to make sure that everyone feels welcome in this particular program. Like I said earlier, we don't believe in good art or bad art, just art that is efficient, art that tells the story that you wanted to tell. We also ask that you dedicate the appropriate amount of time and effort outside of the weekly sessions to create your writing. We recognize that sometimes it's difficult to create space for your own creative practice. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully this weekly session will give you an opportunity to think about your writing and to potentially practice elements of your writing. But in addition to this hour-and-a-half session every week, you may end up spending at least another hour a week writing or creating artwork related to the writing prompts that we provide every week that we have a lesson. Also, we ask that you actively and openly communicate with us at all times as you're involved in the program, especially if you need added support in meeting any of the submission deadlines or any of the other expectations that we have set out here. Also, please let us know if you see someone's behavior not being reflected in our expectations. We will have a code of conduct that we'll review too. And this applies obviously to staff as well. So if at any moment you feel like we did not live up to your expectations or our code of conduct, please let us know. We want to make sure that, again, everyone feels supported, safe, and free of judgment in this space. Y como ven aquí tenemos también las metas programáticas y nuestro compromiso para ustedes en español. Siento que se me acaba el tiempo, entonces no voy a repasar todo por completo, pero básicamente nos comprometemos a ofrecer 2 series, uno en el otoño, el que está actualmente ocurriendo, y uno en la primavera. También vamos a publicar diría como en junio, fines de junio, tal vez hasta julio del año que viene, un nuevo volumen de Conchas y Café Zine. Y también los vamos a invitar a participar en una presentación virtual que vamos a ofrecer durante ese periodo. También vamos a ofrecerles a ustedes que están aquí registrados en la clase críticas constructivas sobre sus obras que crean como parte de las tareas que ofrecemos cada vez que hay una lección. Como parte de eso, para apoyar a ustedes, también esperamos que ustedes nos ayuden a crear un ambiente en donde todos se sientan apoyados, todos se sienten libres de juicio, parcialidad y prejuicio, como ven aquí, y que también promueven un ambiente de aprendizaje. Para poder llegar a eso, también es necesario que se comprometan a estar aquí para cada lección y también para las sesiones de crítica. Cada semana que ofrecemos este programa, tratamos de, como digo, crear un sentido de un ambiente de comunidad. Y para poder hacer eso, si hay alguna razón que no puedan asistir a una de las clases, también pedimos que vean las grabaciones que se van a subir en la página web. Así para que puedan saber qué es lo que se habló durante la clase anterior y para que puedan estar más o menos al tanto de las lecciones que damos, porque hay veces que tratamos de reforzar las habilidades que repasamos o que presentamos en las lecciones con cada lección que sigue. También esperamos que dediquen el tiempo afuera de las clases para poder escribir o crear arte, como reflexionando los temas que hablamos durante las lecciones. Y también si por alguna razón hay algo que tal vez estén batallando un poco con un concepto o con algo técnico sobre la clase, por favor comuníquense con nosotros. Estamos aquí para apoyarlos, como digo, y eso no se puede hacer si no comunican con nosotros de manera abierta y proactiva. Y también es muy importante si ven a alguien en la clase que no esté mostrando las expectativas que tenemos aquí para todos ustedes. So this is kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of how this program is going to work. Obviously, this is a virtual program. Every week, you will receive an email newsletter with the Zoom link for your convenience, and that will usually be sent within the next 24 hours of the session starting. So I do ask that you be consistently checking your email when you know the workshop is about to come up. That's how you'll have easiest access to the Zoom link. And that is exclusively for those of you that are registered. If you have not registered and you're watching on our Instagram Live or YouTube after the fact, we strongly recommend that you fully register for the workshops, so that way you can take full advantage of our lessons. On the weeks that are assigned here, you'll see we will have 4 total creative writing lessons over the course of the next 15 weeks. About 3 days later, on the Friday after we deliver a lesson, we will be asking you to send us your homework. What we mean by your homework is basically whatever your creative response is to the prompt that we provide at the end of the lesson. The lessons themselves will be recorded and they will be uploaded within a couple of days after they happen to our YouTube channel and our website. On the website specifically is where you can download the handouts, though. You won't be able to do so through YouTube. And when you share your work with us, we ask that you email it to us either as a Google Doc or some kind of Google Drive link that we can easily access and provide you feedback on directly. We do ask that you send us the work no later than the Friday before. We understand if that's a little bit difficult for you, but please try to do your best to submit it by the Friday. On the following session, when we have the workshop sessions, which you see here, it will be 2 weeks worth of workshopping. So if you're not able to send it the first Friday after the lesson, you could still send it within the few days afterwards. And if we're not able to cover your work during the first session of workshopping, you will be prioritized on the second session of workshopping. So you will all receive up to 2 weeks, 2 rounds of feedback on the writing or artwork that you create based on the prompts that we provide every lesson. The workshopping sessions will begin on week 3. So today is week 1, the orientation. Next week, week 2, Abraham will be providing the very first lesson of the series. And then the following week, that 3rd week, we will begin workshopping your writing or artwork that you create, again, in response to the homework assignments that we provide. Now, if you are sharing work that you have created in the past, again, that is welcomed. And if it does align with the theme, then obviously we'll invite you to submit that for potential publication. Just know that we don't accept full-length books or full-length manuscripts for publication for this particular program. So please keep that in mind. But as you see here also for this particular series, the holidays that will be impacting our schedule include Veterans Day, which is on the 11th of November. And then we'll also be taking a little break on Thanksgiving week. So 11/25, we will have that session off. And as you see here, this is the last day to submit writing related to the current theme of birds and galaxies. That doesn't mean that will be the last day to submit all of your writing, but that will be the last day for this particular theme. In the spring, we'll have a separate theme that'll support this one. However, it will be a different theme that will all then be combined in the larger issue in June. So, does anyone have any questions here about how the program will be structured? Aquí en español, como ven, tenemos aquí las fechas para la clase. Empezaremos con la primera lección la semana que entra, de hoy en 8. Luego, esperamos que para el taller para las críticas sobre sus trabajos, para anotar su trabajo, necesitamos unos cuantos días para poder leerlo y luego dar las anotaciones. Así que pedimos que, por favor, comparten sus trabajos usando ya sea Google Docs o Google Drive para no tardar el viernes antes de la próxima sesión en que se va a dar críticas. Y aquí, como ven, las fechas ya están programadas. Empezando la semana que entra, vamos a tener la primera lección y luego el 12 de septiembre es cuando esperamos que puedan entregar sus trabajos. Y luego vamos a dedicar 2 semanas a darles las anotaciones que hemos hecho para repasar su trabajo, para ofrecerle nuestras notas, nuestras opiniones, nuestros consejos de cómo reforzar su trabajo. Si por alguna razón no pueden entregar su trabajo ese mero día, entendemos que a veces se complican las cosas, pero por favor, tanto más posible, entreguen su trabajo el viernes que se indica aquí. Y también, si por alguna razón no entregan su trabajo durante el tiempo que podemos leerlo y no se puede dar las anotaciones la primera semana de las sesiones de críticas, vamos a dar esa segunda semana para que todos tengan la oportunidad de recibir anotaciones sobre sus trabajos. Pero cada semana que hay una lección, les vamos a dar como un tipo tarea. Y esas tareas pueden responder ya sea a través de poesía o algún otro tipo de escritura creativa, o hasta pueden responder de manera de arte visual, ya sea fotografía, pintura, dibujo, como ustedes eligen. Pero si por alguna razón no pueden estar aquí para la lección, esas lecciones se van a grabar y durante 2 o 3 días después de la lección, que se da la lección, se va a subir a YouTube y también a nuestra página web. El único modo en que van a poder bajar el folleto de la clase va a ser a través de nuestra página web. Así es que por eso anteriormente dije que recomiendo que anoten nuestra página web, especialmente para que puedan bajar los folletos en el futuro si es que los necesitan. Y aquí, como ven, tenemos los días feriados en que pues vamos a no tener clase, empezando con el Día de Veteranos, que cae el 11 del mes noviembre, y también vamos a tomar una breve vacaciones en la semana de Thanksgiving. Así que el 25 de noviembre también no va a haber clase. El último día para entregar sus obras finalizadas va a ser el 16 de diciembre, que es el último martes de esta sesión, de esta serie. Aunque ese no va a ser el último día para que entreguen todos sus trabajos, ese va a ser el último día para que entreguen el trabajo que han hecho, así como reacción al tema de esta serie. En la primavera, cuando empezamos de nuevo, vamos a tener otro tema que va a reforzar el tema actual que tenemos aquí en el otoño, pero va a ser algo diferente y distinto a lo que estamos explorando esta vez. I think the only thing that I would need to say about Google Workspace is if you have a Google-based email address, if your email address ends in @gmail.com, you already have access to Google Workspace. You have access to Google Drive, Google Docs, and all of the other apps that are designed to basically compete with all the Microsoft apps, or most of the Apple, whether that be Pages, Sheets, etc. If you do not have a Google-based email address, as in, a Hotmail or Yahoo or even iCloud, you can actually use that same email address to create a free Google profile. You just simply go to google.com, and up in I believe it's the top right corner, you can log into your Google profile, and that will also give you access to Google Drive and Google Docs. It's free. It's limited access, of course, just like with your Gmail. But, those are apps that are available to you whether or not you have a Gmail account. Most people aren't aware of that, but for those of you that have never created a Google account, a Google email address, I should say, you do still have the ability to create a Google profile, which gives you access to all of the apps that I'm referencing now. Google Docs is, again, almost identical to Microsoft Word. So you can create your writing there. You can even copy and paste your writing if it's already something that you created in Microsoft Word or Apple Pages. And then you can share it using the share button. That'll make it very easy for me and Abraham to provide you feedback directly on your writing. Google Drive is kind of like Dropbox or other cloud-based storage platforms. And that's how you can share either videos or artwork, scans, JPEGs, images that are too large to send as an email attachment. Again, you can create visual art in response to some of the writing prompts that we provide you. And, the easiest way, if it's especially too large to attach it to an email, the easiest way to send it to us is by uploading it to Google Drive and sharing it that way. Here are the email addresses that you will be using to share your work. It's just my first name, Luis at DSTLArts.org, and Abraham at DSTLArts.org. Send it to us, hopefully no later than the Friday before the workshopping session. And we will get feedback on your writing right away. Lo único que quería mencionar sobre Google Workspace, perdón, no estamos usando Google Classroom, es que si tienen una cuenta de correo electrónico usando Google, ya sea un Gmail account, ya tienen acceso a las apps de Google Workspace, que incluye Google Docs y Google Drive. Si no tiene un correo electrónico que usa Gmail, aún pueden crear un perfil usando Google, y así pueden acceder a Google Drive y Google Docs, y van a tener las mismas funciones que típicamente se encuentran en algo como Microsoft Word o Apple Pages, si son más familiarizados con Apple. Usando el botón que dice Share o Compartir es la manera más fácil para que puedan mandar sus trabajos a nosotros. Y cada semana que van a entregar una obra, simplemente pedimos que lo manden a nuestro correo electrónico, que es para mí, luis@dstlarts.org, y para Abraham, obviamente, abraham@dstlarts.org. Otra vez quiero repetir que preferimos que lo manden antes del viernes del próximo taller de críticas. Is that an applause, Jeanette?
No, yes, because you're awesome. But no, I just actually, I had a question. I hit the wrong thing.
Uh-huh.
So, and perhaps this is maybe just, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking too hard about it. But what is your policy on intellectual property and copyrights?
Excellent question. So I kind of mentioned it earlier, especially with the generative AI thing.
Right.
Generative AI, unfortunately, has violated copyright in a lot of instances. And for that reason, we ask that people do not use generative AI to create their work. Also, for the sake of copyright and protecting everyone's work, we won't be publishing anything that contains references or citations of other people's work. So like if you have, say, a quote from another poem inside of your poem, we may ask that you change that, so that way there's no copyright infringement or licensing issues when it comes time to do the publication. Copywriting itself, basically the moment that you create something, you own the copyright to it. right? If you can pretty much verify that you are the first person to create whatever it is that you created, using the metadata in the document that you created, then you are pretty much covered. And when you submit something for us to publish, you're licensing it to us for that one-time use, that one-time publication of our zine. So in that way, you will always hold the copyright. We don't buy the work from you. We don't ever hold any claims to it. You can go on and you can republish your poetry or whatever you submit to us in other formats, in other zines or magazines, etc. And we actually encourage that you really think about potentially turning it into something larger in a bigger project, if that's a direction you want to go in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that answered the question. Okay, as you see here, we do have our code of conduct, and we do, from at its core, try to follow the golden rule, right? Treat others as you want to be treated. And we also ask that, especially if you are giving critiques on people's work, constructive criticism, be aware of your implicit biases and also your positions of privilege. It doesn't matter who you are, we all have some form of privilege. And in that way, it's also really important to understand that a person's ability to tell their story is not determined by a formal education. You do not have to have a master's degree in creative writing to be a poet. You are a poet whether you are writing something short and that rhymes a lot. That still is poetry. As long as it's telling the story that you want it to tell, there's ultimately nothing that can stop you from being the artist that you are. So remember, we are really just trying to give people just the best amount of support as possible. We're going to be respectful of you. We ask that you be respectful in return. We ask that you appreciate people's life experiences as much as we appreciate yours. Also, we don't believe in censorship. However, we do not accept, publish, or condone any form of hate speech, whether it's overt or implied, especially anything that espouses intolerance, violence, or discrimination against any person or group of people based on the typical protected classes that you might see in most civil rights laws. So race, ethnicity, cultural or religious background, socioeconomic class, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, immigration status, or political beliefs. Ultimately, we want you to express yourself in an authentic way. We want you to be who you actually are. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to hide here in this group. We welcome you full throw, right? Full stop. Our arms are always welcome to anyone that wants to better themselves and their writing. And as with any workplace, we also do not condone any form of harassment, any kind of threats of violence, unsolicited sexual advances or lewd acts, any forms of quid pro quo or abuses of people's trust and privacy. You may or may not receive emails that include other people within the class, and we ask that you do not use that access to information in a way that is deemed inappropriate. So please keep that in mind. Please be mindful of when you are responding to an email, how you are responding to it. And if you are sharing, especially your artwork, just keep in mind that you're sharing the correct file. Please do not share an unintended file. Also, we just simply want to remind you that while you're engaged in our programs, events, or workshops, you are ultimately representing our organization and our values to the community. Like I said, we welcome everyone. There's no reason why any person should ever feel bad about expressing their beliefs, culturally, politically, etc. They are things that we all build up over time. They are things that we all have attachments to. We don't always have to agree on everything. Having good conversation means sometimes being in disagreement. As long as we can have those disagreements in a respectful way, you are in that way showing that you value the same things that we value. So, please keep those things in mind as you engage in our programs. And of course, if there are any accusations against someone that, is potentially violating any part of our code of conduct or our expectations, please let us know right away. And if it's necessary, we will bring in a third-party investigator to help us. We do a full investigation, especially if it's a very serious thing. And any person that is found to be violating our code of conduct will be removed from the program and will also be barred from participating in any future DSTL Arts programs. And the best way that you can notify us if someone is in fact breaking the rules here, please email our board of directors, board@dstlarts.org, as soon as possible. And then we'll obviously launch into an investigation. And I see River added that they wouldn't be thrilled to be critiquing AI-assisted work, but if I would want to know if I was critiquing AI-assisted work, I think I would want to know if I was. I think that might have been a typo. It's two different types of critiques. AI interface work requires prompting, and critique can be a form of prompting. Yeah. Yeah, AI can be a little tricky. So for us, it's just simply, no use of AI in any of the work that we create here, please. Básicamente todas las anotaciones que tenemos aquí, todas las reglas, siguen el concepto de la regla dorada, ¿verdad? Traten a sus semejantes como uno quiere ser tratado, ¿verdad? Si también reconocemos que todos tenemos prejuicios implícitos y que todos tenemos posiciones de privilegio, de esa manera podemos mejor entender cómo vamos a comunicarnos entre nosotros, ¿verdad? Y también es importante reconocer que cada persona tiene su historia, ¿verdad? Todos tenemos unas experiencias que hemos vivido y solo nosotros sabemos cómo contar ese cuento. Y la manera en que se cuenta ese cuento no es determinado por una educación formal. He conocido poetas que nunca han tenido más de 2 años de escuela en sus países, y son poetas que a veces hasta a mí me da pena decir que yo soy poeta, porque hay alguien que me supera en cada manera poéticamente. Así que una educación formal no importa tanto como uno a veces cree. También quiero reconocer que no coincidimos con el concepto de la censura, pero sin embargo no aceptamos o publicamos ni toleramos cualquier forma de discurso de odio, ya sea explícito o implícito, más si promueve la intolerancia, violencia o discriminación en contra de cualquier persona o grupo de gente que sea motivado por su raza, etnicidad, herencia cultural o religiosa, clase socioeconómica, identidad de géneros, orientación sexual, discapacidad, estatus migratorio o creencias políticas. Aquí todos están bienvenidos a participar, y por eso digo que hay que tratar a todos como nosotros mismos queremos ser tratados, ¿verdad? Hay que tratar a la gente como un semejante, ¿verdad? Como hermanos. Y igual como cualquier lugar de empleo, no se tolerará ninguna forma de acoso, tal como las amenazas de violencia, avances sexuales no solicitados o actos vulgares, formas de quid pro quo o los abusos de confianza y privacidad. Aquí van a recibir de vez en cuando correos electrónicos que tal vez incluyan a otra persona, y esperamos que respeten ese nivel de privacidad. También, si van a estar compartiendo su arte o sus escrituras, pedimos que estén seguros de que van a compartir algo que se debe de compartir, no las cosas equivocadas, ¿verdad? Y también, al estar participando en nuestros programas, eventos o talleres, recuerden que están representando a nuestra organización y también nuestros valores en la comunidad. Si por alguna razón hay alguien que ustedes vean o se sienten víctima de un malentendimiento, o alguien que no esté siguiendo las reglas, por favor díganos inmediatamente, así para que podamos empezar una investigación, y si necesario también contrataremos un investigador imparcial. Durante esas investigaciones tratamos de encontrar todos los datos, todos los hechos reales, y si alguien se encuentra que haya no coincidido con el código de conducto, también van a ser expulsados del programa y jamás podrán participar en cualquier programa o evento de DSTL Arts en el futuro. Si van a hacer un reporte, pedimos que lo hagan por email y que manden su correo electrónico a nuestra mesa directiva. Aquí tienen la dirección del correo electrónico, board@dstlarts.org. We do have a bit of an attendance policy here. It is your responsibility to let us know if you're going to be absent at least 24 hours in advance if you know that you're going to be absent. Excessive absences may result in being dropped from the program. And if we see it repeated up to 3 times, then we will definitely drop you from the program. You'll stop receiving all of our notifications. You won't be, barred from returning in the future, but, just to, I guess, save you the unnecessary emails, you'll be just dropped from the program. But, because we do focus a lot on giving constructive criticism, especially as a group, as a community, attendance is really important. So we ask that you do show up as often as possible, show up, be ready to give feedback, and to participate as much as you can. Y aquí la política de la asistencia. Es su responsabilidad informarnos si no van a poder asistir una de las clases al mínimo 24 horas antes de la ausencia, especialmente si es una ausencia anticipada. Si es exceso, las ausencias puede resultar en que se den de baja de su inscripción y al último, si son 3 ausencias consecutivas sin aviso, definitivamente sí van a ser su inscripción se va a dar de baja. Y de esa manera no van a seguir recibiendo los avisos de las clases y como dije hace momentos, su asistencia es muy importante, especialmente para las sesiones de críticas. Aquí estamos para formar una comunidad de artistas y si no están aquí, pues no se puede formar ese sentido comunitario que buscamos fomentar aquí a través del programa. Así que por favor, lo más posible, asisten las clases, especialmente en vivo. Here we have some tips on giving constructive criticism. Most people will probably already come with some level of giving constructive criticism. Our basic tips really start with don't say, I like it. If you do say that you like it, be prepared to explain why you like it in detail. We also like to remind people that we do not critique the content per se. The subject matter of a work of art may or may not always speak to you, but, keep an open mind, keep, the sense of respect for a person's ideas within your intentions when you are responding to something. And when you do provide critique, it's always good and useful for the artist to get feedback specifically on the formatting of the content, right? If it was presented in a way that made us think, if it was presented in a way that communicated the intention of the author, speak to that. If there's a technique or a phrase or a moment that you think is really important and that you connected with it, let the artist know. That way they can see that their message is coming across. And if anything, at least give 2 examples of things that you feel are working in the writing or the artwork, and at least provide 1 example of something that could either create a question in an audience or something that was maybe unclear to you as an audience member, as a reader, as a person interacting with the artwork. This is the easiest way to give constructive criticism to people. And it's really the easiest way that you can help another person develop their skills as artists, as writers. Now, on the other side of that, when you are the one receiving your constructive criticism and maybe looking to put it into use in your next draft, it's important to be attentive and engaged when you are taking in the feedback, right? Be an active listener. Try to limit the amount that you speak when it's your turn to have your work critiqued. Also, remember that when a person raises a question, it's not personal. It's something that is maybe just simply, a question that they have. And it might be a question that other people have as well. Most often, when a person has questions about a piece of writing, there's going to be someone else that has a similar question. So those are things that you can maybe try to address when you do your second, third, or fourth draft of a piece of art or writing. Constructive criticism, constructive critiques, they're really intended to help you craft your work, right? We are here to help you polish your work, to help you feel like it's elevated to its highest potential. We want you to tell your story in a way that is authentic to you and in a way that is efficient, right? In a way that is telling the best form of the story that it can tell. So that's ultimately what our goal is when we are giving constructive criticism. And, if all else fails, like I said, think of the two things that are working good for you and one area where you can continue to improve, right? Y ya casi vamos a terminar, pero aquí tenemos unos consejos para dar críticas constructivas. Básicamente, cuando estamos hablando del arte, ¿verdad? Queremos ver cómo puede llegar a su nivel más alto, a su máximo potencial. Entonces, cuando estamos trabajando con ustedes y dando críticas constructivas, típicamente no queremos escuchar me gusta y ya, ¿verdad? Queremos que digan el por qué, ¿verdad? ¿Por qué algo está funcionando bien? ¿Por qué algo está resonando con su audiencia? Jamás criticamos el contenido, o sea, los temas que uno va a explorar a través de su arte a veces son ideas personales y quizá no nos vaya como audiencia a gustar, ¿verdad? No vamos a siempre conectar con las ideas de otros. Pero, sin embargo, es importante mostrar un nivel de respeto por las ideas e intenciones de otros artistas. Y cuando estamos examinando el arte que alguien somete para las críticas, es bueno criticar la forma en que se presenta, ¿verdad? Hay que hablar sobre las técnicas o las frases o los momentos en que sí conectamos con las ideas de un poema, por ejemplo. Y cuando posible, si al último no se puede dar una crítica constructiva muy detallada, por lo menos den 2 ejemplos de momentos o frases o técnicas que sí sienten que funcionan bien dentro de esa pieza de arte, de esa obra de arte. Y también ofrece al mínimo un ejemplo de algo dentro del trabajo que se puede quizá reforzar un poco o que quizá cause preguntas entre la audiencia. Si son cosas que se necesitan clarificar, típicamente van a ser cosas que no solo una persona percibe, van a ser cosas que otras personas en el público van a también quizá tener preguntas sobre. Así que cuando más posible den críticas con la intención de ayudar al artista de verdad pulir sus trabajos para que, como digo, lleguen a su máximo potencial. For pretty much the rest of this packet, you'll find a list of vocabulary words. These are some of the vocabulary words that you might hear me and Abraham reference periodically. These are not things that we will go over every single time. But again, this is like a technical vocabulary that we typically share. And if you know some of these vocabulary words, obviously, it always helps to have kind of like a reminder of what their true definition is. And if there's things here that you're not familiar with, we are more than happy to help explain them a little bit more through your writing. You might be doing some of these things and not even realize that you're doing them, like enjambments, which, as everybody who knows me, they know that's my jam, enjambments. Pero aquí también tenemos las traducciones de las diferentes técnicas y el vocabulario que a veces usamos cuando estamos dando las críticas constructivas, el Abraham y yo. Y como dije, no siempre vamos usar estas palabras, pero sí son palabras que salen seguido cuando damos críticas constructivas. Y si hay alguna pregunta o tal vez hasta ya reconocen este vocabulario, entonces aquí por lo menos tienen unos ejemplos de las definiciones de manera tal vez un poquito más fácil para comprender. Y como dije, no siempre vamos a usar estas palabras o presentarlas durante las lecciones, pero si por alguna razón tengan alguna pregunta sobre estas, siempre podemos usar sus trabajos como ejemplos para enseñar cómo funciona, por ejemplo, la métrica o la rima. So just as a little reminder, if you're going to be away from the program for an extended amount of time, let us know. That way we know whether or not to continue sending you the updates for the program. Please definitely let us know if you have any questions related to the program or if you have any concerns. If you need help with using Google Workspace, whether that's Google Docs or Zoom, anything like that, please reach out. We're here to help you, here to support you. And although it is rare, sometimes people are asked to talk about Distill Arts and our program to their community. So if you have someone in the community asking you questions, obviously send them our way or talk to us, and we're more than happy to support you in doing maybe even a presentation. As kind of like a part of our arts fam, as we like to say, you are ultimately representing Distill Arts, and we encourage you to speak well of your experiences. If for some reason you feel like there's anything that is maybe lacking, or if you'd like to give us feedback on how we're doing in presenting the information or your experience with the program, please feel welcome to let us know. I mean, ultimately, Abraham and I are here to improve ourselves as well. We don't think of ourselves as like the know-all, end-all for poetry and art. We're students just like you. So your feedback for us is always welcome. In that same way, we do hope also that you feel like you can talk about our programs in a way that represents them. Just don't promise something that we can't deliver, so please don't misrepresent our programs. And if you have any questions ever, just ask for clarification. It's always easier to ask than to be mistaken later. As I did mention earlier, Abraham and I are both also poets, photographers, and graphic designers. You're always welcome to pursue your creative career. We're here to support that. But also know that we're not a photo or design agency. If you want photo or design services, we do offer those things outside of Distill Arts as freelancers. But for non-program purposes, we would still potentially charge you our normal going rate. So please understand, we do still have our own mouths to feed. And then, as I did mention earlier, Distill Arts does not accept unsolicited manuscripts for publication. If you know someone who is interested in only having their work published and not interested in, workshopping or being a part of our programs in any way, you can always refer them to me, and I can then offer them some referrals for ways to publish their work, maybe outside of the Distill Arts programs. So, por favor, comuníquense con nosotros si van a tener una ausencia extendida. También si tienen alguna pregunta o hasta una duda sobre los programas que ofrecemos, y también si necesitan una asistencia técnica sobre relacionado al Google Workspace o Zoom. Estamos aquí siempre para apoyar a ustedes, y pues no sé qué tanto más decir, aparte de que pues aquí estamos para todos ustedes. Si por alguna razón necesitan servicios fotográficos o de diseño gráfico, y es algo que no sea relacionado a los programas. También quiero que reconozcan que Abraham y yo, a pesar de que somos poetas, fotógrafos y diseñadores, cuando trabajamos afuera de esta clase, sí hacemos esos o ofrecemos esos servicios como artistas profesionales y son sujetos a nuestros precios como artistas profesionales, si es que necesitan esos servicios. Y también DSTL Arts no acepta manuscritos no solicitados para publicación, pero si conocen a alguien que quiere publicar un libro o algo así y no quieren estar en el programa, también pueden comunicarse conmigo y tal vez yo tenga algún ejemplo o alguna referencia que les puedo mandar para que puedan por lo menos recibir el apoyo que buscan. Y pues con eso yo creo que ya terminamos por hoy. Bienvenidos todos a nuestro Arts Fam. You're all, now officially part of the Arts Fam after having completed this orientation. If you have any questions at any time, again, about the programming, about technical assistance, all those things, you can always reach out to us. Again, you have here mine and Abraham's email addresses, as well as Angie's. If you feel more comfortable speaking with Angie, she is always available as well to speak with you. We're going to spend the next 15 weeks really going over your writing and supporting you as the next generation of storytellers. So welcome. I'm excited to get to know you all. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time, and for those of you that are returning, I'm really happy to see all of you who are here again. I know that it's going to be a magical journey talking about birds and galaxies. So thank you, everyone. And I'll hang out if you have any additional questions. But with that, I wish you all a good night.